governor vessel 16, Feng Fu, Palace of Wind, has a lot of names in Chinese medicine. It's a very, very significant point. And it's just very useful for clearing the brain. That's the best way I have to think about it. It corresponds to C1. So if you think about the cervical vertebrae as chakra levels, then governor vessel 16, which is the Palace of Wind, corresponds to the seventh chakra, corresponds to the crown. And Chinese medicine delineates various channels of energy that connect from governor vessel 16 to the brain and to the crown. And according to Dennis Wilmot, who is probably he's the acupuncturist whose scholastic understanding of the acupuncture channel system I have the most respect for of anybody I've ever studied. Dennis Wilmot says there's a tradition that from governor vessel 16 there is a secondary pathway to the heart, which I find quite interesting. Because if you think about governor vessel 16 as an opening or a gateway to the crown chakra, and you think about how the embryological position of the heart means that your heart, in some senses, inside of your Shen body and your Ling body, your heart is still up here, right? There's aspects of your heart that are sitting above your crown, inside of your energy bodies. And this point connects directly through to the wind energy of the auric fields above the head, has some sort of connection through to the heart as well. Yeah. Okay. So basically, in working with the window of having points, we've delineated a spiral that goes around the neck. And of course, the neck, the neck is one of the few places in the body where you can see a spiral really easily as people turn. You can sort of see the turning of the sternocleidomastoid, and you can see that spiraling energy. So to me, and the Neijing makes that spiral very, very explicit because it outlines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as the actual order of the spiraling, which I find interesting. And I never knew that till I read it in the Neijing, as the Neijing describes it, then it became quite apparent. Something else I was going to say about this. Oh yeah, so there's a couple of other window of having points, which are interesting to think about. One is lung 3. Hang on, what's it called? Just help me somebody. I've forgotten the name. Tianfu. Thank you. One is lung 3, Tianfu, which is going to be on the upper arm. And another is right there. Oh, nice. Now, these are really interesting points. And the other is pericardium 1, Tianchi. Now, Tianchi is just on the side of the breast, just kind of to the side of the nipple. And is that so?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. And then there's Tianfu here. Now, what I find interesting and intriguing about these is that in order to understand why are these points window of heaven points, aside from that they're both called heaven, who decided that these were part of this system? Because they're not on the neck and they're just added on as kind of like afterthought points on some level. But if you think about the energy bodies, not the physical body, you're probably aware that there's this kind of round field that is often, like when people draw saints, the ancient, paintings of saints and spiritual figures, they often have this big round energy field around their head. This radiating energy field has a relationship to the deltoid muscles and to the liver energy too. The practitioners have often used points around large intestine 14, and of course lung 3 is not very far off of that, to open up the third eye, for example, to increase the sort of expansion of the peripheral vision and the ability of vision to become more subtle. And when they were developing applied kinesiology and they were testing all the muscles and seeing which muscles correspond with which channels and which organs, they decided that the deltoid muscle corresponded to the liver energy, which I always found quite interesting. And of course, we know that the liver chi, actually the liver energy, the wood energy, manifests at each chakra level. It's very distinct. In a sense, because the Shen body is in a sense ruled by the wood chi and the diaphragm and the pancreas and so on. The fourth chakra level is the idea of the green heart, right, or the pericardium energy. And you can see this expressed in the acupuncture points. For example, conception vessel 18 is called, anciently, in modern Chinese, it's called Yu Tang, which is jade hall, right? In the Neijing, it's called Yu Ying, which is jade hero. And jade is often a sort of a stand-in for the green energy. Many psychics observe a green energy off of the heart chakra. Many spiritual traditions talk about that. You've got the tradition of the green Tara, or Hildegard von Bingen talks about the green power of Christ and the green heart of Christ. So this is where the green force manifests at the fourth chakra level. At the fifth chakra level, you've got the throat, right? And then we're always working with the liver chi to regulate, plum pit chi, to regulate the processes of self-expression, the processes of creativity. At the sixth chakra level, you've got the eyes and the third eye, which is all under the rulership of the wood chi. And then, of course, the terminal zone of the liver channel, you've got the Bai Hui, 100 meetings, 1,000 petal lotus. So the green force manifests through the chakra system, and it also manifests here out of the deltoids. So these points, I've always found an interesting association between these points and opening the third eye. And then I was delighted to see in the Neijing. Can you pass me my notes just for a sec? Pass me those 2 pages. Yeah. If you look at what the Neijing says about lung 3, in the second passage, the one where it just lists 5, it says, violent paralysis and internal rebellious chi. Liver and lungs struggle against each other. It's right there in the Chinese if you want to read it in Chinese. Interesting, right? So my view of lung 3 as a window of heaven point is, what a great place to put needles in people if you don't want to put needles in their neck, because it's too intense, or it's too vulnerable, or it's too weird, right? Or, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, there's a reason that traditionally the neck points weren't needled very much. It's very, very vulnerable. And it's very physically precarious. A thin needle, careful needling, you can do it. But still, you could also just think about working this zone to open it up. The other point is pericardium 1, Tian Che, heavenly pool. I don't have much to say about pericardium 1 because I actually haven't worked with it that much. Just, haven't really used it a whole lot. But lung 3 I can relate to quite a bit. So, those are the window of heaven points.
So if you did pericardium 1, would you go use your Chinese technique where you go with the channel, or would you go towards the...
I don't even know how to needle pericardium 1.
Okay.
Sorry, I got very little to give you on that, except it's over the ribs, and so I would go very superficially.
Okay.
And anything over the ribs, you're tending to want to follow the space between the ribs extremely superficially.
Okay.
You don't typically want to go across the ribs like that. That's not good. You want to follow the space between the ribs, or some practitioners actually follow above the rib. I tend to find more chi if you go between the ribs, like the kidney points, the stomach points, and so I would imagine it would be the same, yeah. But I don't really know. I don't think I've ever needled this point, actually. So I just can't really say anything about it. Thanks, Nikki. In this chart, white is metal, green is wood, yellow is earth, blue is water, and red is fire. Easy, right? Mm-hmm. Easy, easy. And
Purple is...
so then you get to the neck. And in the neck, I used the color system of the rainbow because it's a 7 chakra, 7, color model. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, green, blue, purple, that kind of thing. And for T8, I suppose you could have T8 be sort of blue-green as well. Do you need the original?
I don't see any, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to the original because actually, I'm very clever.